everyone, it's Julie here, and I've got a video to talk about paint consistency. Before we start, I want to just show you some different results of different consistency paints. So you can get cells with all sorts of different consistencies. So it depends on the sort of cells that you want. If you want cells that are going to have multiple rings around them and try and keep their shape, then there are certain things you can do in your consistency to try and create that. So the examples I'm going to give you today in terms of consistency are aimed at trying to keep some sense of shape and in particular trying to get the rings that come around on some cells. So as you'll see in the video, you can go overboard on cells. Well, you can put a lot of cells, or you can try and keep them separate. I've gone overboard today without even really thinking about it. So, you can have lots of cells on a piece, or you can try and have less. How you have less may be about the amount of silicone oil, which I suggest in the video, but it's probably also about it is about how much you heat the oil and where you heat it. So unlike what I did in the video today, give it some time, go slowly with your heating. So you're going to have different consistencies for different types of painting. So this one here is a swipe. And by nature, you normally have your swipe paint much thinner. So when I'm talking about the right consistency for cells, I am talking about flip cups and open pore cups in particular today. I'll do some other videos showing different consistencies for different types of projects and different techniques. So in my example today, I've got what I think is a good consistency, and I've also got one that's too thick, and you'll see the difference. But I wanted to briefly talk about a thinner consistency. So I did lots of testing around the silicone oil, and so I've got lots of different examples. And most of my testing, I realised that I had my paint consistency too thin if you want those distinct cells. So this was the 12,500 on a little sample, amazing big cell with lots of interesting colours, and this was the 1,000 on a little tester. Again, I've started doing much bigger testers because, the results you can get on small ones can vary depending on where the oil is. So that was thinner. These ones were also thinner, and that's why I kept working at the consistency, because whilst these are quite pretty, they're not necessarily giving, you've got some evidence of the silicone oil being there, but they're all moving together. Similarly, these were also with a thinner paint consistency. Here is an example of when I was testing different viscosities. This one is 1,000 on a thinner paint. This one is 500, and this one is 300. So what I just did discover, even just with the different viscosity, is that the 1,000 did, at some level, keep its shape slightly better, but these didn't get the round cells, mostly because of the paint consistency being thin. Okay, so here's just some other examples of little mini flip cups on coasters. And you'll see, whilst I haven't stretched them out a lot, there's little cells, but they have got the rings around them and are quite pretty. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the pouring medium, because you'll be able to get the right consistency from any pouring medium that you have. My favourite for cells is probably 3 parts Floetrol, 2 parts PVA, and 1 part Liquitex pouring medium. I do like to add a little bit of varnish if I can, and I did in the ones today. If I find that my mixture is too thick, because different paints have different thicknesses and body to them, I tend to, when I start making them thinner, I use a mixture of Floetrol and water. You can just use water, but I think that little bit of Floetrol just helps it mix it in better as you go. So the mixture I've used today is 3 parts Floetrol to 2 parts PVA to 1 part Liquitex pouring medium. And I made it up in this bottle, maybe hard to tell in this increasingly dim light, but this has actually got markers on the side, so I was actually able to pour in and use those markers. If not, I often mark a bottle in the prior and then I can just keep adding to it. So I hope you find this video helpful, and it's one part of the big picture in trying to create the sort of cells you want with silicone oil. So it's still making a small mound and leaving a small trail, but I think it does disappear much quickly. And if we do the count, I've been doing this, it's around 6 or 7. And a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 5, and a 6, and a 7, and it's breaking up. Okay, so that one seems to be around 7. This one seems to be breaking up a little bit earlier, but let's just see. Mound, a trail. And a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 5, and a 6, and it's breaking up. So, yeah, they're around 6 and 7 seconds that they're breaking up. Let me just show you these thicknesses. It's fairly thick and leaving quite a trail. I'm just wondering if it's a bit too thick. But I need them to be exactly the same. So I'm going to go with it because that's exactly the same as what's left in the container, because I want the variables to all be exactly the same. So we'll see how that goes. It is on the thick side. more cells in this. So this is telling me that I think the mixture is a little bit thick. And the thicker it is, the less it's able to come up through the mixture. It's also reasonably cool here in Melbourne, but I think, so temperature obviously varies as well, but yeah, no, I absolutely normally get much more cells than that. So, here's another one I did with the 1000. So you can see that there's lots of cells that have popped up there of different qualities and colours.